the most accomplished because people still know who I am today, and this is what I did.
While living in seclusion for 18 months, I conceived a method of infinitesimal calculus, set foundations for the theory of light and color, gained insight into the laws of planetary motion, which was the basis for Principia. Later, I theorized that white light was composed of particles. I figured out that planetary motion worked mathematically, and I wrote Principia, which was my finest work. Principia was the most influential book on physics, maybe even in science, some believe. It contained information on all essential aspects of physics, except for energy. It also contained the 3 laws of motion. The first one was a stationary body will stay stationary unless an external force is applied to it. The second one is force equals mass times acceleration, and a change in motion is proportional to the force applied. The third is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction.
I made the most accomplishments of all of you, especially because, as a woman, I
have to say, I was a pretty accomplished scientist of my day. Not only did I teach others and tutor others to pass on my intelligence, but I also made many discoveries. I discovered radioactivity and coined that name. You know, you hear radioactivity every day, it's in TV shows and whatever. That was my doing. I also discovered polonium and radium. I also developed x-rays and helped out a lot of people during World War I, so, I was helpful to people, too. I wasn't just for science, but for people fighting for our futures. I won not only 1 Nobel Prize, but 2. 1 in physics and 1 in chemistry. I was the first person to get more than 1. Not a lot of people can say they got 2 Nobel Prizes, and I was a woman, so. I was so selfless. I even burned down my Nobel Prizes so that the materials could be used for something more useful. So I'd have to say I was a pretty accomplished person.
keep mentioning that I'm a woman. Pretty sure that means I had more struggle than the 2 of you. And it made me a better person.
I faced quite a lot of struggles through my life. Not just being a woman, but also obviously working with radioactivity. My entire life was radioactive. Like, my house was radioactive, it still is. I died from radioactive poisoning. I knew that I was being poisoned by the radioactive elements, and I still kept working. I just dealt with it because it couldn't be reversed. Another struggle that I faced was my husband dying. He was run over by a horse. I guess you just gotta look both ways, but I had to deal with raising my 2 daughters on my own and be without my beloved husband. This also caused me some struggle when I received my 2nd Nobel Prize. Let's just say that my husband's grad student and I had a bit of a relationship going on, and the scientific community looked down upon it and kind of didn't want me to accept the prize because they thought I wasn't acting appropriate. But I accepted it anyway because why wouldn't you? Those are just some of the struggles I faced, which makes me feel like I had the most struggle in my life.
Well, I struggled the most, obviously, because of this.
My biggest struggle in life was Robert Hooke. He was a fellow member of the Royal Society, and he opposed almost every idea I had. When I wrote Principia, he claimed that I plagiarized it, but overall, I was given credit for all the information that the book contained.
I struggled the most in my career because...
Struggles? You want struggles? Try dealing with the Roman Inquisition. They suck. I just wanted to write my book, and they're all like, stop writing about space! Pope Paul V sent the Inquisition to my house just to tell me to stop writing about space. It was so annoying. I just ignored him. And then Pope Urban VIII, he tried to understand. He's like, hey, you can write as long as it's about math. And I was like, no, I'm going to write about whatever I want to write about. So when I wrote the dialogue, he sent the Inquisition to come and put me under house arrest. For 9 years!
My personal life was definitely the most interesting and way better than both of you two.
I had a very lovely personal life. I met my lovely husband Pierre as I was studying in Paris, and we were very devoted and very dynamic couple. We were very good partners in the lab and at home. We had 2 daughters, Irene and Eve. I like to cook a lot in my free time. My cookbook is still radioactive to this day. I'm really proud of my daughter Irene, actually. She won a Nobel Prize of her own after I died, but she was able to do the synthesis of radioactivity, or artificial radioactivity, which was beyond anything I would have thought of. So she kind of carried down the Curie tradition.
My personal life was spicy.
I was always single and ready to mingle, you know. But I had this relationship with Marina Gamba. We never got married, but we did have 3 kids. I remember when my beautiful daughter Virginia was born. It was one of the happiest days of my life, although her head was disproportionately large. We also had another daughter, Livia, and a son, Vincenzio. I named him after my
My
dad.
personal life was better by far than you two because this is what it consisted of.
When I graduated from Cambridge, I went into seclusion for 18 months due to my insecurity that happened when my mother left me when I was a little child, and I never really enjoyed the company of people, so I stayed by myself as much as I could. I never married, so as a result, I never had children because, unlike Galileo, I didn't believe in having children outside of wedlock because I believed I would just screw up their lives like my mother screwed up mine.
I don't like people. I died the coolest way. Mercury poisoning. I mean, come on. How can you beat that?
Radiation poisoning?
So it means you're the dumbest.
Hey,
'Cause
sickness.
you're a woman.
They didn't have all those newfangled medicines back in my day. I died a slow and painful death, probably more painful than both of yours.
Well, you know what? I left a better legacy than both of you.
I feel like I've had the greatest legacy on the world. I have 2 universities named after me, both in Paris. There is Institut Curie. There is also Pierre and Marie Curie University. Not only did I start a whole new type of chemistry, but I also inspired women to actually do something in their lives. That's why I feel like I've had the biggest legacy.
My legacy has by far transcended the years because
Obviously, I had the biggest and best legacy. I mean, come on. I basically invented the telescope used for looking at space, which Newton couldn't have improved if I hadn't invented it. And a lot of different sciences came from my discoveries. Neither of you probably would have existed if I hadn't made those discoveries. So, basically, I'm the best.
More people know who I am now than you guys because
Well, I created the world machine, which kind of set the basis for all of Western civilization, which I don't think you guys can say, so I kind of beat you there. So, yeah, I have the coolest legacy.
so who's the best?
Me. I'm pretty sure I am.
I think I am.
You know what? No!
Before I had the most contributions.
No, I
to
did
science.
not.
Science is real.